everybody, and welcome. My name is Kim Ming Huberwald. I'm the Director of Strategy at Propane Agency.
And I'm Alec Tonto, our Director of User Experience at Propane.
What are we doing today, Alec?
Well, so today we're taking a quick look at a website for Rush.edu. We don't know too much about it, but we are going to start by taking a look at it, doing a quick 5-second test, coming back, giving our first impression thoughts, and then we'll be diving in a little bit deeper to talk about the user experience, the brand, the strategy behind it, and looking for areas and opportunities where it could potentially be improved. So let's get started. Let's take a look at this as a kind of first impression. We'll look at it for 5 seconds. I'll kind of do a scroll through the page, and then we can come back and talk about what it is we see, what it is we thought we saw, and what they do. So ready, set, go. First question, who is this company? What are they called? We kind of can cheat at that. We know that it's Rush.edu.
Right. Although I wouldn't have known it was an education center unless it added the .edu back of it. And maybe that's just not its primary audience. I saw was that we're right there with you. It's just a consumer message as opposed to a more of their educational message. It sounds like they are a hospital, and from the picture, a research academic institution of some kind, because there's a man looking at a test tube, and that's what I got.
Got it. Perfect. And I think the things that kind of stood out for me, again, the guy in the background looking at the test tube, felt like maybe there was a lab coat on. I feel like my call to action was maybe to find a doctor or schedule an appointment. Like maybe there were two things sort of side by side there. And then I saw some events and classes maybe towards the bottom. And then I think kind of in that middle area, I don't remember too much in terms of what it is I'm supposed to be doing or what else might be there. So let's jump back up to the top. So Rush.edu, and it looks like now kind of taking a look at it, just doing a quick once over of, the navigation. I am seeing Chicago's Oak Park, Aurora system. So it is multiple locations. So that content is there kind of, securing us. We do have some COVID messaging up here at the top, and making an appointment, finding a doctor, sort of key CTAs, some different types of ways to reach out in different kind of use cases. So whether it's a current patient, whether you're looking for a job, or if you want to do kind of a video visit, which kind of feels a little bit tertiary, or sort of not apples and oranges a little bit with the concept of a current patient versus looking for a job. I almost could see this being elevated a little bit more to this level, which it kind of is here. So it's an interesting repeat call to action here too on the page. Looks like maybe video visits were services that were maybe added in after the website was redesigned. So maybe we had to find a place to put it or something.
Absolutely. But I do think that the priority is a little mixed here, right? Mm-hmm. Why is Jobs at Rush central to this connect with us? And unless it's a huge priority for them at the moment.
Yeah, and maybe with as a research institution, maybe that it is.
And so, but ultimately, it's not speaking to one audience, and usually in situations like this, you want to speak directly to your consumer audience. Job audiences, or job-seeking audiences, are a little more intentional and will look at a footer or in the about page for a jobs link, whereas you want your main consumer users, your main patient users or potential patients to be able to get exactly what they need. And to mix those audiences, it's a little bit confusing, and it splits. And then it sets up an audience to have to weed through which information is for them.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I think news from Rush plus Jobs at Rush kind of go hand in hand in this idea of us talking about ourselves, us trying to build our own business, us being Rush, versus the concept of, hey, who do we serve? And kind of getting a better distinction between the who do we serve versus how do we do what we do and how do we do it better are kind of two separate ways to maybe organize our information architecture. Cool.
And so, and just to talk about brand a little bit on this first page, this very much is a research institution. It has new technology news. It has sort of this grant news from Oprah, right? Which is a credibility builder, but it also is not and it's a confidence builder, but only for a certain type of patient. We want to make sure that that Rush is at the cutting edge. And this, from your first blush, it does give that credibility, but it also doesn't do much for the community care aspect, the clinical care aspect, the everyday care aspect. And I don't see a ton of that on here.
Yeah, I will say that the intent is the thing that I see modeled here too. Like the objective of a homepage is what? And what are we over inundating our users with? What kind of extra kind of use cases or intentions are we putting on the homepage that might not be entirely necessary, especially in a world where today users want to come to a website, log in, get their work done, do the thing that they came here to do, and then kind of move on.
And so once again, we're not 100% sure of their business goals, right? It's that tension that we're sort of picking up on. They're trying to do a lot of things.
I do have to say I love the way that they've found a way to highlight these sort of primary and secondary and maybe even tertiary call to actions in the hero, making it really clear I can make an appointment, making it really clear I can find a doctor, or then kind of making it clear I can do one of many other things. I think this is an interesting innovation here for selecting my use case. I wonder what the analytics would be on how many people use something like this, because it's not necessarily an established pattern. So you're kind of taking a venture that your audience is a explorer of sorts and confident enough to make a click that they don't necessarily know what will happen once they click. And so it'd be interesting to find out how much this is used.
And so once again, if you click on the I need to drop down, it also splits your audiences in an interesting way. I need to find a doctor, I need to find a job, 2 different audiences. I need to get directions to Rush, probably a patient audience, potentially, right? I need to access my chart, definitely a patient audience. I need to refer a patient. That's a physician audience. So now we've got another audience that we're talking to. Clinical trials, which could be physician or patient, pay a bill, volunteer, make a gift. All of these things, when you present more than 3 to 4 choices in any menu, humans get choice overload, right? It's harder to make any decision if you're faced with too many decisions. And once again, there's no hierarchy here as to who their main audience is and what they should be doing. And one of the ways to potentially combat that is to actually identify your audiences before you identify the multiple use cases within them. And so you just have a little bit of compartmentalization and categorization so people can choose with less options per stage. Once again, under services and conditions, what I like here is that you have a search and a menu. The menu is a little overwhelming. Research also shows that people don't always know the medical terminology for what it is they need to seek out, right? And so if we type in, let's say, skin, right? I'd be interested to see what comes up.
We get quite a bit scrolling in sort of this smaller viewport right inside the navigation. Do you see that?
Which is nice as well. It's nice that they actually have one, right, to sort of help guide you. But that's a lot of skin things. If all you need is, if you have a standard rash and you just need to see a dermatologist, but you don't know the word dermatologist, that's not going to really help you get there. And if you like skin testing being the first thing, it's one of those nebulous things. I have a rash, I have dandruff, like I tested? So it presents it presents more questions.
Yeah. Is it testing that I need? Or is it, a doctor?
Or precisely. And so the search results aren't prioritized for an audience either.
It's interesting to even find that on a healthcare provider's website, which is that like I could end up at skin cancer before I end up at the right first step, which is visit your primary care physician. And so, for someone in a situation who is not clear on what to do next, there's an interesting hole here for them to go, an interesting rabbit hole here for them to fall into, so to speak, such that they might end up at the, too far down the path and where they should be and where we want to get them to. Okay, so if we were to assess this page on, what do they do? So it appears to be that they are a medical system, have multiple locations. They do both clinical and sort of hospital services as well as research. Who are they for? I guess we get a sense of it's for the community of Chicago and kind of surrounding areas. There's a wide variety of services and conditions that are served I'm not necessarily seeing any one become the sort of primary set of services or conditions that are treated versus others. So that's kind of an interesting aspect too, is that there's not necessarily like we're trying to bring in women, infants, and pediatrics or something to that effect. And so I'm seeing a pretty wide variety of types of, people on the sites so it's kind of like a for everyone kind of play potentially.
Which is nice as far as a community hospital and what you want to be promoting, like, hey, we are for everybody, we're right there with you. I think once again, with people's level of comfort with research, it's not necessarily what they're looking for. If they're looking for 9/10 of that list of all of the different services and conditions, and we know that between shopping around for your first interaction with a doctor versus coming here to try to get something done because you already have seen a doctor here and you need to understand locations, prescriptions, your chart, things like that. Those are very different use cases. And what I would love to see is something for like new patients or existing patients, just a little bit of guidance that would be nice.
Yeah. I think now we've been dancing around it for a little bit. What if we dive into these sort of main CTAs, see where they take us and how that experience looks? So starting with making an appointment, I'm always interested to see, healthcare bridge this gap into digital transformation and allow a patient to do their work, do their scheduling online from the website in a way that I could book an Airbnb or the way that I could get an Uber. So what happens when I click make an appointment with Rush? Let's take a look. So it does seem like they have a good placement for COVID messaging here, though it does feel a little more like a warning and a little overwhelming for the level of text that we're seeing. Readability could be improved. Having it centered with different colors and weights and font sizes kind of makes it feel a little overwhelming. And when you're having a COVID conversation, maybe calmness is more important than overwhelming. So there's maybe some small things to do to improve readability with a message like that, starting off the experience. And then diving in a little bit deeper, it looks like we kind of have this interesting new brand color being introduced, sort of a less saturated green. And we can get into, it almost feels, if I were to look here, I feel like I'm on a different website. I'm not seeing a lot of the same, even font choices inside of buttons might feel different weight of text, etc. So like compared to, like, if you were to hold up a piece of paper and look at just the navigation versus looking at just the appointment scheduling, I feel like I've gone into a new realm, which continuity for brand is always an important thing that we like to highlight. After choosing select online, I'm greeted with a type of appointment that I can make. So again, I feel like I'm making a pretty important decision right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't feel like it's given the level of space that's needed to make an important decision like this.
Or guidance.
Yeah.
It's not using, I'll say, non-medical terminology, which is okay to use. It's just some people might need help. And the very fact that you can make an appointment with pediatric surgery seems odd, because I imagine your surgery team wants to have their appointments, triaged for the people who are actually good candidates for surgery. That's my assumption, right?
Yep.
And can you really just truly make an appointment with that team? That would be interesting. And the fact that pediatric nephrology, if you don't know you need a nephrologist, I don't know that I would know what that is, right? And so it's not a great first measure of...
Yeah, let's say that maybe there are 4 items you want someone to really choose to schedule their appointment online, as like 80% of the users would probably be scheduling pediatric primary care, adult primary care, maybe trying to get something with like a cardiologist, an ear, nose, and throat, a podiatrist, dermatologist, like a general sort of acute issue that you're coming up against. But yeah, I agree that we there's no priority outside of alphabetical to this list that kind of focuses me in on the 80% of where 80% of people going versus those 20% of people going.
Right.
And I think on such an important start to a pathway that brings new people into the system, this is definitely a place that could be optimized to help drive deeper conversion and
Absolutely.
overall kind of affect the bottom line. And even using terminology like adult primary care versus pediatric primary care versus children's primary care. Primary care was really hard to find because I wasn't necessarily thinking about putting a pediatric or an adult in front of it in a list. And even though it's number one, I don't know if you noticed, like 2 minutes ago, I was scrolling all the way around here looking for primary care and thought that it wasn't in the list. So it's definitely a presentation issue. Totally, I think, opportunities for improvement there.
Absolutely. I think they're missing a big opportunity here, just to
Mm-hmm.
piggyback on what you said about the My Chart. We know that a lot of reimbursement and a lot of KPIs in a lot of hospital systems nowadays have to do with people logging into their patient portal,
Mm-hmm.
and the numbers of those patients, the numbers that they return. Soon those standards are even going to be increased for people who are actually accessing care information or that are mandated to access care information, and just not having it be present and not promoting it and marketing it as something that you should or can be doing, that it's easy, that it's fast, and maybe it's not, right? But not promoting it in a way and not having it in the standard position really is taking a lot of the wind out of that sail, which a lot of hospital networks that actually they need it for to fill compliance and regulations. Reimbursement regulations. And so
not to mention, just to recognize, sorry to interrupt, but just to recognize ROI overall for your digital and technical strategies that you're embracing. The more people that you can get into it and drive more appointments through, the better you're going to find that kind of recuperation on, or that your return on your investment. Again, that primary focus and driving through that helps to drive that ROI.
If you go back and hover over the Find a Doctor, what I also think is interesting here is that they've got these testimonials, right? The patient, the doctor testimonials, which I think is a really nice way to, even if you're faced with 12 doctors of the exact specialty you need, exact distance from your house, this is a nice way to choose from those doctors. Like, oh, who do I vibe with more? It's always nice to have a little bit more than a headshot. Phone and hour information, like what do they have any other specialties, their personal mission, their personal take. I think this is nice. I think it's a little bit premature. It's a little nice to show humanity, but I want to see humanity in the doctor, and I don't know what kind of doctor. Actually, I do know what kind of doctor. They're both internists, but I might not need an internist. I think this sort of content helps me choose a doctor. I don't know if I want it right now before I've told you what kind of doctor I need.
To be honest, this is more trust building, and it maybe belongs on the homepage. And in the navigation, I'm trying to make a decision, not necessarily consume content. That's maybe that tension that we're feeling is, how do we help build trust on the homepage from hearing from our doctors, while at the same time just letting me get to that Find a Doctor experience in a really kind of foundational way that lets me jump off from there. It's a potential hypothesis, sort of increasing the number of people finding doctors and sort of completing maybe the appointment booking flow from that perspective. I do love that they are bringing doctor personality onto the site. It looked like they had some YouTube videos for doctors by clicking on Hear More from Doctors at Rush. So it looks like they're embracing the sort of power that your physicians have in terms of content marketing, in terms of being a voice for the brand. And so it's an interesting and looks like sort of forward moving approach to bringing the brand to life.
I think a lot of this stuff is probably SEO plays. I don't think a lot of people go searching through health and wellness for things like articles, and I don't think people come to their health network to show it. But it's nice that what I saw on the homepage was that they had classes and events integrated into the home experience, so that it tells people you have classes and events, which is great. And I'm interested to see if we picked any of the conditions, if some of this content is surfaced in there. If we picked like cardiology, if we went up to the top and picked cardiology, I'm wondering if any, like, what their content play looks like.
Yeah, great question. Like, are we actually getting our health and wellness information kind of circulated throughout the experience?
Right.
Rush appointments from home. bariatric surgery assessment. We do have some cardiac related articles, health benefits of a vegan diet. Not the most usable experience. It's not necessarily engaging me with images, etc., but it is here from a news and health and wellness. Yeah, so it does have that health and wellness masthead, so it is from that section.
Right.
So it is. It's not necessarily interspersed in the most easy to find way. Thus,
Right.
I bet that path is taken by 15% or less of people who visit the cardiac
I would guess less.
page. This is interesting. In going to the cancer center,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a lot more sort of variance in sort of the template of the experience. We're getting different types of modules here, different types of components, ways to kind of call attention to different pieces. There's this kind of interesting mosaic carousel experience with the CTA. So there is some time and attention put into, hey, how do we emphasize and drive people on probably some of our leading service lines to...
Absolutely. Actually, if you roll down, I really like the value props that they've picked, and it's sort of missing from a brand, overall brand perspective, but this is a little bit better. If you see like excellence in cancer care, specialized multidisciplinary care teams, accredited cancer center, leader in precision medicine. Like those are things that you care about when you care about cancer care. I would say some of this is missing from the cardiology page because cardiology and cardiac surgery certainly are acute conditions. And I think this level of value prop presentation is missing from this page as well. I think once you get into cancer care, someone is actually searching for a specific specialty. And I think that's okay at this stage, at this type of page, right? This list is more necessary than some of the earlier lists that we see. And this list broken out and actually focusing on the fact that we have head and neck cancer services. We have liver cancer services. Because if you have liver cancer, you're going to care that they specialize in liver cancer.
I absolutely,
the right place to have that sort of list. Whereas I think some of the earlier lists where you have every specialty of the hospital broken out in in only medical terms is not so helpful. This I do think is helpful.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I think what is maybe doing it too is the treatment of it. Like they almost feel like kind of inline podcasts that I would hit play on or something to that effect. Like they almost feel like
that does look like play buttons. Yeah.
Yeah, little like they almost look like little media content blocks or something to that effect, as opposed to necessarily being this is a list of potential types of cancer you could have. Choose yours. Yeah. Choose your specialization. And so let's maybe rethink how do we help a user find lung cancer versus liver cancer in the most effective way possible that can happen within 5-10 seconds of visiting the page, as opposed to necessarily having to read through these columns in alphabetical order. Well, great. So this has been taking a look at Rush.edu. We are Propane.agency. I'm Alec DeTanto, our user experience director.
And I'm Kim Ming Huberwald, our Director of Strategy. Thanks for hanging out with us and going over this website with us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear your thoughts or opinions, both on the website as well as what you think about our feedback on it down in the comments below. And you can always like and subscribe to our channel. You can press the bell to get notifications for when new website reviews go live. And we're here to help make the internet a more usable place.